Hello everybody! Today I want to show you how to use the Pop-A-Top dies, particularly the Pop-A-Top oval, to create this awesome easel card that I started and Miss Jennifer Dove finished with her ideas on it. And it's a popped up card and it has a border here to create an easel card so that it can sit up on the table as a display card. So I'm going to show you the items that were used to make this card. Alright, I have them all together here. I'm not going to go through them in order. I'm just going to go through them as we used them here, and they will be links in the bottom in the comments area, or the description, excuse me, for all of these items. So we have the Grass Tops die, the Eggs die number 1, the Zig Zag Border dies, there's a set of 3. We have nested ovals with matching stitched ovals. We have the 24 Karat Friend stamp set and also the 24 Karat Friend dies. Then we have our base die, which is our Pop-A-Top oval. This makes multiple sized cards. I will do another video on making different cards with it. I'm only going to concentrate on the easel for this particular video. And then here we have the Flower Builders 1 set. I just wanted to point out that you can get the Grass Tops as part of this set and it saves you money. So it's just another option. I'm going to go ahead and set those aside. Those are all new product. I don't want to end up opening those and using them. Alright, so to start with, we need to create the base of the card. And that's done with the Pop-A-Top oval die. And again, there's directions on the packaging. Please keep your packaging. I always try to put really good directions on the back of it. If not, I can send you it as a PDF. But this is our Pop-A-Top oval. And this is going to work the same way with all of the Pop-A-Top dies. The side pop dies work a little bit differently. Alright, but it's a half die. So you can see here that this outside edge does nothing. This is a score line here and a score line here. And then this is our cut line. And I usually store my tape right on my die and stick it in the package. So here we have your half sheet of cardstock. It's 5.5 wide by 8.5 long. And to begin with, we're just going to go ahead and fold this in half. Let me lay it down here and crease it. I'll grab my bone folder. Okay, so just a standard size card. Alright. What we want to do is we want to put the pop of the die, or the top, towards the fold line. Okay, we want to place it approximately halfway down the paper, and then you have the little flat edge here, and that's hopefully so that you can keep it flat and aligned with the card so that your score lines end up right. I'm a little neurotic. I'm going to use my paper trimmer and I'm going to lay it down and use the grid, and that's going to help me just make sure that I have the die laying straight on the paper. Or straight-ish, as I like to say, because nothing is ever perfect when we do these. Okay, so with the tape already on the die, once you get it where you want it, you can press it down. Well, you want to make sure that you open the card. I'm going to feed it this way and place it down, and we're going to go ahead and cut it here with our machine. And I just cut it again. Technically it was twice, but it was only to return it to my side of the table. If you're in a limited area, the reverse on this machine sure is handy. Alright, so we remove the die, and our tape is left on there, and now we have a pop-up. Okay, and I will do, like I say, another video, but this can make multiple cards just with this one cut, this one positioning cut. So what I like to do is I hold the front of it, and I push down with my fingers here until I'm to the bottom of the cut line. That's where the creases are. Once I have that tension against it, I'll give it a pinch. That way I know that I'm coming all the way down to where the intended score line is. This is a linen paper, so it's a little bit heavy, and that means that it's not going to show my score lines as well. The die does score, but you just, with the linen weave, it's a little bit harder. So we're going to go ahead and use the bone folder here. Okay, so that's going to give us an easel. Okay, and I'm going to grab Jen's card again. Alright, so you can see how that gave us our pop-up. Now we want to complete this. We want to make it so that you can tell that that's a complete oval, because right now if we were to just decorate this, it's like a half oval, but you want to see the complete oval. Okay, so I have a piece of my Easter pattern paper. I did not actually show that, but I will link it in the comments. I don't have a whole pack because I was using it. This is something that I designed in print that you can order. So now we need to make the overlay. Okay, instead of having a separate die that cuts the overlays, you can do it with the one die. Okay, so what I've done, you can see, well, let me flip my print so you can see it. You can see I'm a little bit wider than the card itself. And that's to give myself wiggle room, literally wiggle room. I'm going to set the card aside. So I'm going to turn the die upside down. Now what we want to do is we want to take the notch out of this paper. And if we go all the way to the edge of the die and align it here, it's going to end up sticking up past our fold here. And if you had already cut this to the exact measurement from here to here, it would end up short on the bottom. So you want to give yourself, make sure you align yourself correctly to only the score line, which is going to be halfway through this little bar. Okay, and then I have a little bit of play, so I'm going to go a little bit past my edge. Alright, and I need to lay this down. If you have the right idea, I'm going to go ahead and lay it down here on the table, or on here, and see if you can see. Alright, and I try to tape to the non-print side of my paper, that way I don't accidentally tear off my pattern. Alright, give myself wiggle room on both sides. My tape's already on there, so once I have that bumped up against the score line, all I have to do is give a press where my tape is, and then my die is now stuck, hopefully, to my page. And I forgot I was on the magnet, so let me just realign that. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. Okay, so now I'm going to flip that over and run that through the machine. If your plates are starting to bow, don't put it upright like a bowl. Flip it over so that it will start to flatten out your plates. Really turn this. Okay. So now we'll untape from our back side. Now we have a notch, and these make really cute tabs for filing tabs on sides of cards or whatnot. So now we have the perfect match here. We set it right up against the top edge, and it makes our completed oval. And what we would do is tape that down. Now when I tape, I put the tape across here and around here and here on this piece. And then on my card, I run my tape down like this. That way, right here is taped down, which is where it could fall open if you only taped it on the outer edges. You'd have this gap. But then you can't put tape on here because you don't know where that edge is going to be. So if you put your tape here, on there, and then on the bottom edges of the card and sides, then you can line it up, and you would press it down, and then you would simply just take your trimmer and trim across the bottom and both edges to do that excess. When you get better at doing these, then you can pretty much measure and know. You could still slip and have it end up inside it. Now I don't have layers to like step this in, because that would be a whole lot more dies, and this die sells for $8 and can do a ton of things. So instead of it being like a $30 die set, what you can do is you can place the piece after, instead of taping it, you could place the piece on your paper trimmer after you have it the exact size, and you could just work your way around, cutting 1/8 of an inch off all the way around, and then that's going to set it in like this on the outside edges, but your oval's still going to match, or whatever shape Papa Top you're using. So I could do a video on that exactly, a little bit more detailed for a future part. So that is going to give us, thus far, we have our card base and our overlay. Those are both done to the point we're at now. So now I'm going to show you the ovals and how they match up, and how you would use the stitched ovals with the straight ovals. So I'm not big on having dies that always do what they always do and that's it. I like dies that I can manipulate and make them do different things than just one, because I don't want a set of ovals that is a straight cut and one that is a stitched cut with the straight cut, and then on and on. You understand what I mean, right? So the die is proportioned, or it's set up to fit exactly on here. So if I turn this, I can get it to line up exactly with the edge of this pop-up. Okay, and this is the largest stitch die in the set, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch it on to this piece, the base of the card. So I'm going to grab stencil tape. Some of you might have heard me talk about stencil tape. It's about $3 a roll, and it's in the craft stores in the wall decor section where you get paint and stencils to decorate your wall. They still carry it, even though that's kind of antiquated of a decorating technique. I'm going to de-tack it with my fingers. You can also do this by putting it on your pants or whatnot. But I need it to not tear my paper, but still hold my die to my paper. So I'm going to, and I do this better if I hold it up in the air and I feel it. So I'm pushing against that edge, and I don't see the white all the way around it. So I know, and I should have put the tape on the die first. Let me do that. I'm a bit out of practice. As most of you know, I do a lot of things and wear a lot of hats. Okay, so I can still feel it. I can still see it. So I can press my tape. There we go. Alright, and then we want to make sure we open this up to run it back through. We definitely don't want to be puncturing the back side of the card. Okay. When I started storing my plate like this, and I started only having 2 plates out, I had an extra plate out once, and I had both of them stacked like this, and I threw a die on it because it was totally flat, put a 3rd plate on top and drove it in, and I broke my last vagabond doing that. So I've kind of gotten a habit of doing this. Alright, on tape. Great. We have perfectly aligned stitches, and if we were to put our overlay on, we have nicely stitched our oval poppet top. Okay, so to make the blue oval that she's done here, it would require 2 steps with these dies. So Freedom gives you a little bit of choice, but it also sometimes can mean an extra step, and I personally don't mind that extra step, and I'm going to show you why I also like it. When you buy a die that does the stitch and the cut at the same time, it always is what it always is, and you're always going to have your stitch line, the distance from the edge of the object that the creator of the object decided was a good idea at the time for them. But what if you want something different? So, for instance, if I wanted to step in and I wanted to put a smaller stitch die in here, and I wanted to have a deeper recess before my stitches started, this gives me that option of being able to center a different die in there. So I'm actually using, I've pre-cut the straight ovals, so here are my regular ovals. I've pre-cut it, and Jen actually used 1 step down, but I've already cut this one, so we're going to use it anyway. You could choose whatever size you wanted on it, but what you want to do is you want to pre-cut your plain oval, and then you're going to position the same die. So for instance, I used number 2, the second one from the largest, okay? So here I'm using the second one from the largest in the stitch ones. And this is the exact same technique that you would use with the A2 layer stitch that I have. They match the A2 layer dies, and then all the stitches would stagger each other. So I'm going to pick this up again and hold it. Ovals are tricky. Ovals are kind of hard to arrange to me, and so I'm going to hold this up in the air, and this die edge pretty much meets the outside edge of the oval that's straight cut. So I'm going to push down on the tape, and that way I have it aligned. So again, like I said, it's not as easy as throwing one die that cuts and stitches down, but it gives me options, and that's what I like. So I'm going to stitch it. Really quickly too, one of the other reasons that it's great to have a stitched oval that does nothing but stitch, let's just say, I'm going to flip this over, let's just say we want to put a stitched oval down here on our card. So I can put stitches anywhere. I might even take and do the smaller oval and do from the 4 corners in so the stitched ovals overlap each other. Who knows? But it gives me options. Alright, so tape off. And I keep them, I sell the dies in little bags, and I keep mine in my little bags because I like to keep them together and not lose them. So what I have now is I have a stitch line that is perfectly centered inside of my oval. And like I said, Jen used the next layer down to create a little bit smaller, so she has a bigger edge there. I didn't realize that when I was getting my stuff ready. Alright, so that's that part, and then don't forget, we have the overlay ready to go on it. Alrighty. So then, let me talk to you about the Zig Zag Border Dies. So, you get a set of 3 here, and I also have scalloped borders that are set up on the same concept. And again, I bag them, so you don't have to keep the packaging, but they're nicely bagged. Alrighty. And I believe I already have 2 taped together in here. I'll just show you what they do. I kind of just leave them if they're already there. Or I guess he just has tape on him. Alright, so in this set you're going to get 1 die that does the cut line only in a zigzag. You're going to get 1 die that does the zigzag only in the set. And then you're going to get 1 that cuts and stitches at the same time. Alright, so what I did here, I'll show you, and this could have been brighter, should have been brighter, but it was a playing around with that I was doing, and then Jen graciously finished it for me and made it really cute. So I cut this out of a strip of the paper, the print, and then I spaced it out to put the white here. This would have been really cute if there had been a blue underneath it, I think. But live and learn, and then make another card and change it up the way we want next time, right? So, because you only have 1 cut line, it's like, how do you get that to work out with another cut line? So, what you're going to do, or what I did on here, is I'm going to take the cut and stitch, and then I'm going to tape it together with the cut itself. Now, they're not going to be spaced evenly as far as the stitch line is going to be closer to one edge than the other edge, but it still gives you a lot of fun. I'm going to use this piece of brown paper here just to show, because I forgot to get a color. Now when you're cutting an edge, it's a good idea to go lengthwise if you can with a long die, and the outsides of your machine are the strongest sections of your machine. And I'm just going to bump this right to the edge and use as little of the paper as possible there. So if you want to just remove a sliver of your paper. Now technically, I got really close because that's going to fall apart. Huh, makes cute little triangles though. You could use all of your pieces parts that you get, your negatives if you will. So what I did is, this would have been the printed paper, and then here's my zigzag cut with stitch, and then it's just placing it however far apart you want to create that border. Or you could cut it out of one color and place it right next to another color. Lots and lots of options. But I wanted to show you how I did that zigzag border. Alright, and you could tape them in a different order if you wanted to by putting the other stitch line in between, tape all 3 of them, then you would get cut, double stitch, and another cut and have a wider zigzag. I will let you play with them and you can decide what you want to do. And yes, I am going to neurotically put these back into the package while I am holding you as a captive audience. Okay, so we have Pop-A Top, overlay, ovals, ovals with stitch, and now I've shown you the zigzag border edge here. And now I want to show you something that I call an all over pop dots. I want you to look at this bunny. And this is my Tricks bunny on crack. He's just googly-eyed. So you can see that the entire bunny is popped up. The entire pop dot, if you will, is the shape of the bunny. And then also, so is the 24 karat friend out of the stamp set. It is also popped up solidly. And I will show you how to do that. So you're going to take 3D foam, as I call it, or what I'll also refer to as presentation foam. You're going to get an 18 by 24 sheet of it at the Dollar Tree for $8. Okay? Can't get any cheaper than that. No, it has no adhesive. You don't want adhesive because it won't cut as easily if it does have adhesive on it. Okay? And I'm going to pull out my 24 karat friend die. Alright, first what I'll do, I'm just going to cut a brown shape of the bunny. I don't have him pre-stamped and colored and cute. This is just a quick how-to. Okay. So I cut first, use the stamp positioner, and then I stamp later. Jan actually says she doesn't use a die, she hand cuts, so we'd have to get her the dies so she could make the pop-ups if she wanted them. Alright, so here's our bunny. We'll save him up there. Now we need to cut our foam. Now there's one thing I want to make sure that you know about cutting the foam. The foam is thick. If we were to put the die on top of the foam, this is a really solid die. Odds are it's not going to stretch or bend the steel that the die is made out of too much. But let's say I was cutting a carrot. Okay? And as strong as this die is, you know, I can force it to bend and ruin it, but as strong as this die is, when it goes through the machine at this height, it's going to start squishing it. And what it's going to do is it's going to warp the edge of the die. And we don't want to ruin our dies because then we have to buy new ones. So what I would like for you to always remember to do is put your die face up on your platform, off to the sides if it's a smaller one, and then you place your foam on top of it. Okay? And you want to make sure that you're using the size of foam that is approximate to your die. If you use a full sheet of it and you run it through, it's all going to get squished, and then the next time you cut something, it's going to be squished even further. That's kind of cool if you want it to be squished further, but if you don't, and you want it nice and thick, then you definitely want to just butcher a little piece with an X-Acto knife or scissors. I have a full sheet down here, and I just chop a chunk out of it with scissors. You can see it's not really that great. You're going to put the die face up, you're going to put the foam over the top, and you're going to drive it through. Now this whole video you've seen me go up and back with my cutting, and a lot of the times those pieces were taped so I knew that they would not move. But with the foam, I do not recommend that you return it to your side of the table, because as you can see, the foam does not stick in my dies. I'm not sure about other dies, but for the most part it doesn't stick in the dies. And what will happen is when you come back, it will have shifted and you get something that I call a stutter cut. Okay, so you want to just kind of wobble it here. I'm holding it firmly and just wiggling, and the more detailed the shape is, the more you need to kind of wiggle him free here. And if you have to, you can always take a scissor and cut away a part of it, or I've just torn it away with my fingers just to get it out. Okay, so there is our all over pop dot bunny. You can see how thick he is. He's very uniform. Then I would just take, I use glossy accents as my glue, and I would just smear some glossy accents on here, and then I would stick down my bunny. And you can see, again, I use my fingertips on the edge here. I can align him, and I have an all-over pop dot that won't crush. They're extremely inexpensive, and I have to thank my boyfriend Guy because he's the one who came up with this brilliant idea. Instead of sticking little pop dots on the backs of big objects, we can just put the big foam under our object. So that's, again, what I call an all-over pop dot. Okay, and that is how Mr. Bunny is done. I did the same thing with the 24 karat friend. I'm going to show you another trick here. This might be sometimes too tall. So you're kind of like, oh, I wish I could make that a little bit smaller. So here's how you can make it a little bit smaller. So we have just ran over our bunny several times and flattened him out. Okay, now I have been known to stamp on the foam piece and color right on the foam. I don't know if that works with Copics or not. I haven't tested that theory yet, but I've done a hummingbird that way. So now, I'll give you a comparison. Can you see the difference there? I don't know if the light's going to enable us, but this is the original thick foam, and then the thinner bunny is here. So it's more solid and more squished, and on the outside edges it kind of compacts it a little bit, but it doesn't hurt when you have your die cut over the top of it. Okay, so now I do the same thing. I know that Jen didn't. You can see Jen has just a piece of foam back under here. I make my cards for displays, like for shows and stuff, so I put like I would put a complete oval of this foam behind there. I would use like the next size down oval, and I would cut it and I would stick it completely underneath there. And then the eggs, I wouldn't worry too much about it unless I really wanted or needed the whole thing to be completely popped up. And I'll even use my strip out of like my center step. There's the strip dies, and I will cut this with the dies and layer it, and then I would put the whole foam underneath it. And what I really love about using this foam, no, it doesn't have adhesive on it, but it's also not gooey, so I don't have to have it gooing up my scissors when I cut it apart, and just a little bit of glue on it and it holds it down. And I really love how Jen puts the rhinestones on the buttons. I think that is really adorable. And she's tucked the grass in, and it's really dimensionalized and layered. And that is our 24 karat friend bunny on a Papa Top easel card. By the way, you can also decorate the back with another overlay. You could use a different paper out of the set. I do not recommend putting your card down with your 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 print here, and then trying to center the oval in it to match this oval and just cut the oval out. You do not want the paper connected on here. You want a seam. So if you do cover the back, do one piece here and one piece here, so that when you bend it up and down, it has give in the seam and it won't tear the paper and fray it and make it look kind of tacky. So there you have it. That is the Papa Top oval to make a 24 karat friend Easter card. And thank you so much, Jen. I had colored this bunny with the Dove blender pen and some Brilliance ink pads. And while I thought he was somewhat cute, I should have taken a before picture because he was very drab. And Jen touched him up with her fabulous Copic coloring, which I hope to learn, and stockpile a set of Copics. But thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoy creating with some of these techniques. Have a great day.